Hello everyone, welcome to my video and my channel. Today's build is going to be, every room is a different aesthetic. I used my handy dandy wheel to add a bunch of random aesthetics to it, and we will spin for each room. The first room we got was Desert Core for the living room. I was really hoping to get this aesthetic because The Sims 4 has the package, Desert Luxe, and they have some really fun options. I also know that I recently downloaded some fun custom content that includes desert-like themes. We are going with a really light color palette in this room, so I'm hoping the rest of the rooms kind of match this vibe, or are at least a little similar. If you are new here, there are a couple things you should know about how I like to build. Majority of my builds will always include two things, clutter and custom content. Don't get me wrong, I love the original items that The Sims 4 offers, but some custom content is just too good to pass up on. As far as the clutter goes, I like to make all of my builds look as realistic and lived in as possible. I have seen so many creators try this build challenge and I always enjoyed watching them, but I was a little hesitant about doing one myself. The reason being that I am horrible when it comes to change, and I have a set style when it comes to designing the inside of houses. I finally caved in and decided to try this challenge out, and it was so much fun. I definitely want to do something similar like this in the future, but maybe with a twist. So if these kind of builds are something you're interested in, please feel free to subscribe. I try to upload 1 to 2 videos every week and would love your input. Also, leave a comment down below on what your favorite kind of build is. It can be anything from a bar build to a hospital build. I have just started recently getting into doing a lot of community lot builds. Some of the ones you can look forward to coming on my channel soon are a boardwalk build, a broken down pirate ship turned into a bar build, and most recently I just finished making the Krusty Krab from SpongeBob. I think I am going to make most of Bikini Bottom and make it a little series. Those videos should be up within the next week or two. Just need to finish editing them. Also, look how cute that little green cactus is. I found that on the Sims resource, which is where I get majority of my custom content from. And I feel like it just fits in perfectly with this room. This room turned out a lot differently than I was expecting. I wasn't expecting to do as light and airy as it is, but I must admit, I am here for the pastels in a desert room build. This little trick here to move items up and down is simply pressing the following keys. You can also rotate the item freely by holding your mouse down on the item and pressing Alt at the same time, while moving it to get it to the perfect rotation. The next room is the kitchen, and we got punkcore, which is not an aesthetic that I would typically use as inspiration for a design. I grew up in that punk era back in the early 2000s, and all of my classmates and friends were really into that and the emo scene. Whereas I was just into playing The Sims and watching Mary-Kate and Ashley movies. But I must admit that the older I get, the more I have come to enjoy that style. Not to the extreme, but a little rip in leggings, or a skull here and there can really just bring out a whole vibe. I wasn't too sure exactly what I was going for with this room, but I know I wanted to incorporate skulls, a lot of black and a little bit of greenery to brighten up all the dark colors. I honestly prefer working with such a small space. It makes it easy to set the tone for the room, it allows clutter to fit perfectly, and if your Sims are tight on money, it makes the room fill up with less simoleons being spent. Speaking on your Sims, what do you guys prefer to do in The Sims? I know, when I was growing up I loved playing the actual game. I would build my house and live out my family. But in more recent years, I have come to just enjoying the building aspect more. I want to get back into the gameplay, but the older I get, the less time I have to devote to that. Let me know what your preference is. Do you like to just build or just play? When I did the gameplay as a teenager, my friends would all call me weird because I never used cheats on my Sims. I would use the Move Objects cheat, but I never used Rosebud or Motherlode. I made my Sims work for what they had. They had such a strong work morale, it was insane. And now, being an adult, I often question why I did that. I definitely do not have the patience for that anymore, and Motherlode is often used. I I truly didn't think I was going to like this room, but I can honestly say I am pleasantly surprised with how much I like it. The new floor and the brick walls really tied everything together. More recently, I have been getting into adding shelving to my rooms. There are so many amazing purposes for shelves. First, it gets rid of empty wall space, while adding some sort of dimension to that room. It can hold literally anything. At least in The Sims it can. I can't imagine a real shelf being able to hold some of these questionable items. Shelves really just bring out everything in a room. And for kitchens, if you don't have overhead counters, then I highly recommend adding some shelves to get rid of that awkward space. Here comes the greenery. I love plants in The Sims because they never die. I can't keep a plant alive for the life of me, but in The Sims, you aren't required to water them or tend to their needs. They are simply just decor for your Sims, and I kind of wish real plants were like that too. I know you're gonna say, why don't you just get fake plants? I could do that. But you can always tell if a plant is fake. It has that rubbery look to it, or that shiny finish. Sometimes it's even too green. Maybe one of these days I will get a green thumb, but for now, I will leave that up to my Sim. But I must admit, something about a dark kitchen and green plants. My ideal kitchen would be a vintage vibe, with a dark green cabinet and black granite and just a whole bunch of plants all over the place. On shelves, windowsills, hanging from the ceiling, growing over the windows. But I guess before I get my dream kitchen, I need to learn a thing or two about keeping the plants alive. The next room aesthetic we got was cottagecore. This aesthetic is for the dining room, which I must admit I had a lot more difficult of a time than I was expecting with this room. I swore the cottage living pack had a lot more options than I saw today while doing this build. Maybe I am thinking of the exterior build that has a lot of new options with cottage living. Regardless, I had a difficult time picking out so many parts of this room, such as the color for the curtains, what to hang on the wall, what kind of rug to choose. I struggled a lot with the color palette for this room. I know I wanted to stick with a dark wood for the base of the items, but as far as the primary color, I ran into a lot of mismatching. Sometimes I feel like the hardest part for a room is the wallpaper. It is also one of the most important parts of a room. It can either make your room or break it. This wallpaper I chose, I feel like didn't do the room justice, but I feel like a lot of dining rooms do have wallpaper similar to this. Needless to say, this room was definitely my least favorite in this build. But that's okay, because if you stick around for the last room, it will all be worth it. The bedroom was the funnest build for me personally. It matched my personal aesthetic a lot, and it's just simply beautiful. I finally settled on this rug, but I just couldn't find the perfect swatch. Between the rug, the curtains, and the chairs, I felt like there was definitely room for improvement, and they weren't giving much. I really wanted to fill up this wall with photos, but I hate when the frame color doesn't match on all of the pictures. So instead of having mismatched frames, I decided to just do one picture and sizing it up one time. Overall, it wasn't my favorite build, and wasn't my worst build, I must admit. It came out a little better than I was expecting. I almost lost hope in there with this build, but the next two rooms make it all worth it. We got urban core for the bedroom, which I was really hoping for. Urban core includes a little bit of greenery. So what I decided to do is pretend that whoever lives here is an artist who loves to read. As you can tell in the rest of the house, she has books all over the place. Since this is her bedroom, I figure this is probably where she does a lot of her artwork, and where most of her supplies would be located. I struggled here with trying to hang this green moss-type plant around the bed. That was the inspiration I had, but the sizing wasn't adding up correctly, so I decided to just put it at the end of the bed. And it actually worked out great, and it wasn't too overwhelming either. Here come the plants. And when you think I am done adding them, think again. I think this room has the most plants in any other build I've done before. But I am not complaining. I truly think plants bring the room alive in some aspect. This wallpaper truly is the star of the show in this room, with all of the plants and warm tones. For the entryway, we got vintage core. This was perfect, because I don't have too many things vintage, and the foyer is a small space to fill. Walking into this room, I knew all I needed was an end table with some clutter, a rug, lamp, and chair. The next room is the bathroom, and we got grunge core. There isn't really too much you can do with the bathroom, especially the one in this build because it is under 10 tiles. I worked with the space I had and feel like it did accomplish the grunge core code. That is all of the rooms. Now I will give you a final walkthrough, and let me know in the comments which room turned out to be your favorite. Also, remember to subscribe to see more of these awesome builds. Thank you so much for sticking around. Until next time.